Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the truly extraordinary mind of Albert Einstein. But hey, don't worry, we aren't just going to sit here and stare at intimidating physics equations. Instead, we're going to extract a highly practical framework from his life, one that you can literally use right now to think more clearly, creatively, and independently in your own daily life. Because, Einstein didn't become a genius simply by memorizing more facts than everyone else. He became Einstein because he learned how to completely question the assumptions that everyone else had just stopped questioning.
So let's start our journey not with complex, scary math, but with his signature childhood curiosity. See, Einstein spent his entire life asking these seemingly childlike questions, things like, what exactly is time? Or, my personal favorite, what happens if I chase a beam of light? I mean, imagine that for a second. Imagine actually trying to ride right beside a beam of light. What would you even see? It was these deeply curious, imaginative thought experiments that ultimately completely dismantled our traditional understanding of time and space. And this reveals a pretty stark contrast in how we process the world around us. Most of us, right, when we encounter something weird or difficult, we adopt what we can call the everyday mindset. We just kind of shrug and say, well, that's just how it works, or I don't have the time, that's just life. But Einstein's true superpower was this relentless Einstein mindset. He absolutely refused to become comfortable with the obvious. He was always asking, but why? That tiny little word, why, is arguably the most powerful intellectual tool you possess, to challenge the things you've repeated to yourself so many times that they just feel like absolute reality. This utter refusal to just accept the obvious actually started when he was just a little boy, completely fascinated by a simple everyday object, a compass. He became totally obsessed with the mystery of how that little needle knew exactly which direction to point. I mean, there was no visible rope pulling at it, no tiny hand pushing it around. Something completely invisible was influencing it. He didn't just accept that it worked like most kids would. He needed to understand the hidden system beneath it all. And it was exactly this relentless questioning of everyday assumptions that eventually led to his special theory of relativity and, of course, his world-famous equation, E=mc². He essentially proved that the measurements of space and time aren't just these absolute fixed things in the way humanity had always assumed. Instead, time can actually pass differently depending on your motion. Space and time are fundamentally connected. And mind-blowingly, he proved that mass can actually be understood as a form of highly concentrated energy. He then went on to radically redefine gravity itself with his general theory of relativity. Matter, he realized, tells space-time how to curve, and curved space-time influences how matter moves. So gravity wasn't just some invisible rope pulling objects together. Rather, massive objects were actually changing the very geometry of space itself. It's like putting a bowling ball on a trampoline. He showed us that the universe is this deeply interconnected system where things that appear totally separate are actually heavily intertwined. Now, there is a really profound life lesson hidden inside that idea of interconnected systems. We so often try to fix our own problems by complaining about the fruit, right? All while completely ignoring the roots. But Einstein showed us that if we really want to change the system, we have to follow a powerful 4-step formula for breakthroughs. First, you question the deepest assumptions. Second, you imagine a totally new reality. Third, you test it. And fourth, you refine it. It is literally the perfect combination of unbridled imagination with rigorous scientific discipline. He executed this formula absolutely brilliantly during his 1905 miracle year. In just one single year, he published groundbreaking papers on Brownian motion, the photoelectric effect, special relativity, and mass energy equivalence. And here is the absolute kicker. He didn't do all this from some prestigious university laboratory. No way. He did it while sitting quietly, working as a clerk at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, proving that your current environment does not completely determine the quality of your thinking. However, the sheer quiet of that patent office highlights a massive problem for our modern minds. Think about it. Today, we're constantly bombarded with endless notifications, social media feeds, and artificial intelligence. This constant stimulation acts exactly like stones being thrown into a lake. It totally destroys the still water you need to see a clear reflection. You see, you don't necessarily lack the ability to generate original thought. Your mind's water is just a little too disturbed right now. You don't always need more information. Honestly, sometimes you just need less noise. Which brings us to Section 2, the Einstein Method, a toolkit for modern noise.
So how do we actually fix this noise? Well, we can distill his entire philosophy into a highly practical, fast-paced framework to help you cut right through that constant mental stimulation. Let's break down the first half of this method. E stands for examine. What are you assuming about your problem? Seriously, never treat an assumption as a fact until you've fully investigated it. I is for imagine. Ask yourself, what if the exact opposite of your current belief were true? N is for narrow. Big problems create psychological fog, so break the mountain into rocks by asking, what is the single most important problem I can solve today? And S is for simulate. Run the future in your mind before you run it in reality. What happens next, and then what? Now, the second half pushes you completely out of your own head. T is for test. Run a small experiment in reality. Don't spend 6 months designing a logo. Just go talk to 10 real customers. E is for eliminate. What unnecessary assumptions or tasks can you just get rid of? Complexity is often just a mask for poor organization. I is for iterate. Look, your first answer won't be perfect. Test, learn, correct, and test again. And finally, the last N stands for never stop asking why. Consistently trace your motivations all the way back to their root. Why does this specific problem keep repeating itself?
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that the ultimate test of this entire Einstein method relies on one really difficult, almost confrontational question. You have to be able to look at your own conclusions and ask, what if I'm wrong? I know, it's tough. It requires profound humility, but it ensures that you aren't being blinded by your own assumptions and that you're genuinely open to the limits of your own understanding.
You see, Einstein was never merely interested in defending his ego. The ego always asks, how do I win this argument? How do I prove that I'm right? But the scientist asks, what is actually true? What am I missing here? By shifting your personal framework from just wanting to win to genuinely seeking the truth, you can completely transform your relationships, your business decisions, and ultimately, your understanding of yourself.
And let's be super clear about something. Einstein's own life was absolutely not some smooth upward graph of success. His own space-time of failure, if you will, was vast. He faced incredibly harsh criticism, navigated intense disagreements, and openly admitted to massive mistakes. But this proves a really vital point. Failure simply means your current model of reality needs updating. That's it. It doesn't mean you should just try harder at a broken strategy. If the strategy is failing, it's time to change the model.
Which brings us to the deepest and probably most frequently misunderstood philosophical lesson of relativity. People often think relativity just means everything is relative. It really doesn't. It means that while your perspective absolutely matters, reality still has a definitive underlying structure. Your specific viewpoint is not the entire universe. True wisdom begins the moment we stop confusing our isolated, single perspective with total, objective reality.
Section 3, a framework for daily life. Let's make this actionable. You definitely don't have to be a Nobel Prize-winning physicist to use all of this. You can bring this profound scientific and philosophical mindset directly into your own daily routine. Here is a simple evening practice for you. Dedicate just 10 minutes tonight to write down one single problem you're currently facing and run it through these 5 distinct questions. First, what am I assuming about this? Second, what evidence do I actually have to support that assumption? Third, what would the exact opposite possibility look like? Fourth, what is the smallest experiment I can run tomorrow to test this? And fifth, what can I completely remove to simplify the whole thing? Because changing the frame of your problem almost always changes the entire game.
Remember, Einstein changed physics simply by questioning the structure of reality, and you can change your life by questioning the structure of your own thinking. Breakthroughs are rarely hidden in better answers. They're almost always hidden in better questions. So take a step back, look at your situation again, and ask yourself right now, what is your better question? Question deeply, imagine boldly, test relentlessly, and never
ever stop learning. We hope this explainer gave you some new tools to think a little differently today. I want to leave you with one final thought. If failure just means your current model of reality needs updating, what part of your reality are you stubbornly refusing to update today?